Hello, this is Insights into Consciousness. I am your host, Anna Olsen, tonight, and we're here on A1R Radio tonight, and I have a special guest who is a great friend of mine and also an intuitive, and I just wanted to kind of get an idea of her basic experience with readings and how they come up over time and how they can be the same. When Spirit delivers a message to one reader, how years and years later, in our case, when I did a reading on her, Spirit came through with the exact same message. So that's basically the theme of tonight when we're doing our show here on A1R, Insights into Consciousness. Again, my website is AnnaOlsenIntuitive.com. If you'd like to reach me and you'd like to get info on the classes that I'm teaching right now, I'm going to be basically doing one-on-one coaching, and people can get packages for a payment plan. You can not just do a payment plan, but you can also get 20% off of my one-on-one coaching classes, either via video, phone, or in person. You can get 20% off from watching this show tonight, and then mentioning that I said you could get 20% off for mentioning the show. So if you want to get 20% off of one-on-one coaching on how to build your intuition and your psychic abilities and how to find your own unique spiritual DNA, your own unique way of reading with me, I can teach you all the ins and outs and exactly what it is that you do and how to do it. So AnnaOlsenIntuitive.com, you can get all my information there, and I also have classes in person that you can go to if you're in the Southern California area, Central Coast area. So tonight, I just wanted to introduce my great friend, Carrie Moreno.
Hi.
She's here with me tonight to kind of give some insight on how to know if a reader is accurate and her experience with that. And I just wanted to get her experience. I really like to know how people feel when they're coming into a reading, because as a reader, we just know that we're getting a lot of information and it comes through as it comes through. We're not always in that person's shoes and how they might feel. So I actually went to Teresa Caputo's big event at Shumash Casino here in this area. And I was surprised at how I felt on the other side, because I was getting some, she was kind of hitting on me, on my situation a little bit, not hitting on me, but hitting on my situation. Don't think she was hitting on me. And she started to kind of bring up some really personal issues with me, and there were a lot of people in the room, and I thought, wow, this is really uncomfortable, much different than I thought. It's not as easy to open up about this stuff as I thought. So I want to just introduce what it's like for the person being read as a reader and doing most of the reading. I want to just give some insight into how somebody really feels during a reading and how that can be managed with a reader. So Carrie first came to me and she was surprised because everything that I said was very similar or the same as a reading she had done. How old were you?
Well, I was 19.
Okay.
19, yeah, 19. So many, many years ago.
Okay. She was 19. And so what was it that was the same, and what was your experience?
Well, it was, the reading I had 20 years ago was the first reading I'd ever had. My first experience with any sort of mediumship or psychic reading, anything like that. I didn't know what to expect. And then I found Anna later by chance. And going in with the reading, there was a lot of similarities with timelines, with relationships. The amount of people in the relationships were the same. The separations that I had in my marriage, she was accurate, as well as the reader I had experienced previously, which was before I hadn't even met my husband yet. Down to just health issues, everything like that, she was extremely pinpointed on. And it surprised me that some of the same information I had from years before is still coming up, even though I've had experiences in such a great time span. I thought it was super interesting, and it was a big confirmation.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And also kind of that I was on on the path that I was supposed to be on also.
So basically you had a reading when you were 19 before you got married and before all these things happened.
Yes.
And what she said was correct.
Yes.
And I think since then, hasn't she kind of moved on to another area, or she stopped reading?
I want to say she passed on. I'm not certain, but she was an older lady back then.
Okay.
I loved her. She was she had sparkly eyes. She was an awesome lady. But unfortunately, I've lost contact since then.
Mm-hmm. And so what us readers do and us light workers do is we use spirit to just continue on that work. And I picked up where the woman left off. I've never met this woman. I don't know who she is. And it was when she was 19. So, I mean, the chances that any of us would have remembered all of that like it came through would be very, very low. Okay. So it was just interesting and really confirming for me as a reader too, when she said, well, this is exactly what this other woman said this long ago. And then what went on in that reading with us, when I gave you a reading, it did happen, correct?
Yes.
Like, yeah.
Oh, yes.
And I was seeing things that she was still kind of in denial about. And it was.
Yes, but they proved to be true. Mm-hmm. And even sometimes I think it's important to remember it might not make sense at the very moment, but after that, sometimes things come together. And yes, denial is part of it. Sometimes it's really hard to see things you don't really want to hear or see. Yeah. But very, very accurate and very similar.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that was also the first time I'd met you, and it was by chance. Mm-hmm. So I was impressed.
That's good. Well, yeah. I mean, I was impressed with how well you handled all of that information too, because it was like a really pivotal time in your life. Yeah. And you were just so graceful and so humble about the whole thing. And, we definitely made a connection. And it's interesting that this kind of work, when you're talking about personal things with somebody, even like a stranger, you can really like build some bridges, friendships, and really create bonds like no other bond. I think that, right? I mean, like sometimes it takes a long time to even open up to somebody when you're even just friends or, yeah. I know there's some things that I haven't even told my family members about me, so my reader knows. my psychic intuitive knows. So, it's to me, the way that I've noticed that it works is it's almost like a type of therapy, but you forego all of the opening up and having to keep the can opener out and slowly, like pull all this information out of people and get them comfortable in a really trusting environment. I think that people intuitively know when they can trust you. And this is another warning too of like, if it doesn't make sense or there's something that seems off, it's a good idea to either stop the reading or, if you're getting a really bad feeling from somebody or it doesn't seem like it really is accurate or it just seems really far off, that's different than not understanding, like let's say a sign or a message. Mm-hmm. So the basic message I think behind, what happened with Carrie and I is just that something will make sense. There will be confirmation from spirit. It'll be a good feeling. It will make sense in some way where you'll say, okay, tell me more. It shouldn't feel forced. It shouldn't feel totally off, or there shouldn't be a basic, feeling of your intuition telling you that you need to be, really nervous about because there's something wrong. So that's something to also keep in mind. I think that would be very helpful for a lot of people. So going into a reading, how do you feel? How do you feel when you're going into one, or when you went into one with me the first time, just having met me?
Well, I was comfortable with you. Mm-hmm. Right off the bat. I don't know, because you have a calming demeanor. It was a total random by chance. Something brought me there, which to me is also, I'm huge on signs. That was a sign I was supposed to be there. Yeah. I had no idea that there was readings being done there. Mm-hmm. And I almost left. And then I saw the sign like, what is that? What's going on? So I had to, yeah. And I felt like I clicked with you. Mm-hmm. I was a little nervous because, again, I feel like I needed to be ready to hear what I needed to hear. Mm-hmm. I feel like it's important to also be open to receiving the messages mm-hmm. that might come through. But by the end of it, I was very surprised that it was a lot of the same information, and from just the years in between, it totally, like, you guys hadn't even met. There was no connection to her and you, and I just met you, and it was huge confirmations, like, okay, this is it. This is correct information, and it was surprising.
Right. And so for me as a reader, when I get, what advice would you give me as a client? Like, if I were to get this message of like that I'm afraid will really be harmful to you to know, or I'm scared that it will affect you negatively or make you upset, what's a way to deliver that you would
for
suggest?
me personally, I would like them to ask permission, because maybe I'm not ready to receive it right now. Maybe I don't want to know. Maybe I want to know other things, but maybe not that right now.
Right.
I would ask permission if they're ready to hear that. There may be something that might be upsetting. Are you ready to hear it? Okay. Or maybe give it. My preference, though, is I would want to hear it, but everybody's different.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I would ask permission, or maybe give a little bit of information, kind of nudging to see how they feel towards it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the best bet would just be to ask.
Okay. Yeah. So there again, is an example of a boundary. So, for instance, if someone is claiming to be a reader and they run up to you in public and start saying, "Oh, you have this issue, I can help you with it, I read," that is a clear violation of boundaries. And I've been hearing more and more about this in intuitive circles and with people that I've been working with, where, it's really not okay for them to do that. Other readers need to know that's not okay. That is a breach of confidentiality. It's a breach of boundaries. You don't ever just come up and start reading somebody or say, "Oh, I got something on you. How about I read you?" That's, of course, spirit can also help you through that process in certain circumstances where you really feel strongly to tell somebody something in confidence and in private. And you can ask their permission first. So, Carrie is just expressing that if you really are getting something strongly about someone and you really feel it's important to let them know for either safety reasons or for their well-being, it's important to still say, "Would it be all right? Do I have your permission?" And I know when I was trained at Stanford doing Reiki by Stanford Reiki masters, they taught the same thing, that even though somebody comes to you for an appointment to do Reiki, before even, you're not even touching them with your hands, but even before performing any sort of healing or light work, you still need to ask permission. And this is very important because otherwise the violation could be pretty serious. People don't, it can be traumatic for some people. Some people have triggers. Some people are dealing with PTSD. And what that does is it causes a reaction in people where they'll never want to get a reading again, because they'll think, "Oh, that's a scary situation. It's not comfortable. This was too much, overbearing. I don't like those readers. They're also, this is what one of them did to me." That gives all the really good light workers a bad name. So this really, I think, something important to consider and to keep in mind whenever, you've got to remember that their electromagnetic field and their aura is their space. It's sort of like, you don't run up and touch somebody that you don't know. Well, most people don't. I don't. and I don't do readings on people like that either. So, it's just about being respectful and engaging that as an intuitive, because, we're not normal people in a sense. I mean, we're pretty different. And, I think most people who know me know I'm a little eccentric, and most of us intuitives and psychics, we're very we experience life in a different way, where sometimes we do want to run up to somebody and start screaming, "Oh my gosh, I can see that this is happening." No, we have to learn like everybody else, in their jobs. You go and you get training in any job, you have to learn these boundaries, and it's just part of what the work is about. So again, this is about how spirit works, that the message is the same. And in addition, what I'd like to add and really, really stress is that when you receive a message about what may happen in the future, another thing I wanted to go over with you, Carrie, is that we kind of saw something that may be happening in your future, and you can either, share it or not. Again, that's your boundary, and you can. But I remember that we went over that the relationship you were having at that point, that you guys would get back together and
Right.
things like that. And you actually decided to end that.
Right. I felt that, and in the previous reading too, it was we would get back together after this separation, this third separation, which all three happened. But I made the choice to not go back to that situation as it wasn't healthy. And
Right.
I feel like you have the choice to change the situation. It's not written in stone.
Right.
I feel like everybody has free will, and you're presented this information and it's your choice. There's different paths to take, I feel.
Exactly. And
that's up to you.
That's what I really wanted to touch on, is that you always have the free agency and free choice to change the direction. So a really good reading will tell you what will happen if you keep making the same choices you're taking now.
Absolutely.
That you're making now. And you always have the choice and the freedom to do it differently, to go another route, to change it up. It's basically a roadmap saying, if you continue doing what you're doing and continue the way that this is going and the pattern it's going, this is how it will end up. But especially with Carrie's been a great, person to work with. She's very, very receptive to information. She's very, she's very teachable, and she's taught me too. So she's not only one of my teachers, but she also listens to me, because when these things come through,
I do listen to you. You get great advice.
Thank you. When these things come through, it's from spirit. When it's really from spirit, it's not anything from my negative intention or anything that I'm trying to project on her. It's just something I'm seeing, and it's basically giving her the roadmap that I see,
right,
energetically. So, I'm really proud of Carrie, because she made a decision, and it was difficult, and she's gotten through it, and you're better off for it now, and you're really doing fantastic. So, I really wanted to use Carrie tonight and have her on the show, because she's such a great example, and she's such a great, amazing woman. So I'm just really glad to
I
have
appreciate
you
your
on.
guidance.
I just really love her so much. And so I'm out of time tonight, but I wanted to thank all of my viewers. And again, Anna Olsen, intuitive.com. Please click on the classes. I'd love to see you either in my class in person or to do one-on-one in some other way. So I will see you next week at 6:30 Pacific Standard Time, 9:30 Eastern Standard Time here at Insights into Consciousness on A1R Radio. I'm Anna Olsen. Have a wonderful night.